One important thing here, it's modifiers. Um, Most of the modifiers that we're going to be, I guess, are important to mention. We already talked about boosts and everything like that. But in war, we're talking about the room bonuses and how they really affect an attack, and just uh, what do you do to consider that, basically. So while I load up the war, we're going to be able to see my defensive helicarrier here. Doesn't really matter to me that much. It's pretty similar to a lot of alliances at this point. But what are the main rooms that we're talking about here when we're talking about modifiers?
Right. So the big, I guess, the modifiers that people sometimes don't realize or ignore is you've got your security and engineering. So both of them provide modifiers to adjacent rooms. Security applies defense down on your attack teams, and engineering applies defense up on the defense teams. People do fall into the trap when they're in a particular room. They don't realize, for instance, security is next door. So when they go send in a team, they can sometimes come out worse for wear because on the first turn that their team's uh, been smashed by defense down. Obviously, if you're in security, you're probably aware that defense down is there, but a lot of people fall into the trap on adjacent rooms. That defense down also applies to those rooms. Similarly for engineering as well, which applies defense up. Now, the other rooms that also apply, they're room specific modifiers. Is you got bridge, which will apply counters to the enemy defense teams. Reactor, which will apply disrupt to your team, and cargo bay. Now, a lot of people don't realize, but cargo bay applies some effect on the enemy defense team, and that if you've left a, say, for instance, single Ultron, for instance, on in cargo, all 8 random effects will go onto Ultron, which is sometimes a nightmare.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely is a nightmare. Um, Hangers, what, a deflect on their attacking teams, right? Um, and then
Right. Yeah. It's the the global modifiers, which provide deflects to their attack teams. Medbay, which provides their defense with an extra, I think it's 40%, uh, 40% health boost. Barrack, which will apply an additional 20% health boost, but also it will apply, I think, extra armor and resistance damage.
20% max health, damage, armor, resistance, and focus
I think you can.
to all defending allies, an extra 10% bonus to military allies.
Yeah. So that's to their defense, and armory is pretty much the same as that, but for
Offense.
an alliance's attack teams.
Yeah. These are all very important. And again, it's really easy to tell if you're paying enough attention what's going on. I can't show you what it looks like in an actual war attack right now, but you can see this room. I clicked our reactor, for instance. You can see it has plus 40% health from the medbay, plus 20% everything from the barracks. These defenses are going to get defense up. You're going to be disrupted, and you are going to be defense down when you attack this. When you actually go into an attack, it shows it to you based on the team. Like it'll show defense up on the defensive side, and it'll show defense down to you. So just keep an eye out for the modifiers that it shows there. But what kind of adjustments do you think are important to make based on the modifiers?
Right. So certain teams will be affected by some of those modifiers. For instance, if you're in reactor, or if you're going into reactor and using a team that applies buff on themselves, um, on the first turn, those buffs aren't gonna stick. So if you got Brotherhood, Juggernaut's not gonna get his taunt and all his buff on that first turn. You'll then have to readjust taunt on his gun, for instance, and stuff like that. Same with Colossus or the big one is Black Order. Thanos will not. He will become empowered, but he will not get his buffs that he gets from his allies if you send in a Black Order team into Reactor. So there are certain situations where you will have to adjust according to the particular modifier that you face in that room.
Right.
For instance, any initial attacks, especially AoEs, the whole team is going to counter that particular character that you've used, like that. And defense down, defense up. So what I usually do is, if I've got a particular counter and it's within a particular range that I'm comfortable with, but if there's a defense down or a defense up, then I will kind of short than that range additional buff that the enemy team has on you. So it's all about looking at the modifiers and making adjustments according to.
Right. Completely agree. The ones that I think, obviously, those are the very obvious ones. I think a lot of people actually get caught off guard with the global buffs, because if you lose your armory and they still have barracks and medbay up, the attacks are a lot more difficult than the number ranges actually look like. So it is something just to keep an eye on, like more than just the very clear your defense down. So be prepared to take in more damage right away, or their defense up, so you might not really want to use an early burst team, and so on and so forth. But do pay attention to what rooms you have up and they have up still, because that can actually make a big difference. Because I've seen a lot of people be like, look, this counter doesn't work anymore. I can't get I can't get my debuffs to land. I can't strip their buffs. And it's because they have both their barracks and medbay, and the person trying to do the counter didn't have their armory anymore. It's like, well, you're going to have to be a stronger team, because this is a significant difference, that one little room difference. I don't think the actual power changes those numbers, those rooms actually give to the teams, fully captures how big of a difference it can be. Because like on defense, that's a maximum of 60% health. If you don't have that armory giving you 20%, that's a huge change. So it's just a little something to keep an eye on. But yeah, I think we'll talk more about modifiers when we're doing more specific team stuff. Like off the top of my head, Power Armor 2.0 against Red Skull, don't do it with an engineering buff. That'll backfire more often than you realize. But we'll talk more about that in specific stuff, I believe. Which means we're getting to the last couple of things, which be really quick. Honestly, this has gone a little longer than I was expecting, but probably a bit of tech issues are responsible for this today.